Listen, this isn't a normal video. This might be the most special thing you've ever seen. I'll share the full episode flowchart on my Telegram, whose link in description. Watch carefully, my friends.
Welcome to The Explainer. Most of us think our skeleton is pretty much set in stone once we stop growing. But what if I told you about an arm wrestler whose training arm is actually longer than his other one? Or about a tribe that's famous for being incredibly tall, partly because of a jumping ritual they do every day? The stuff we're about to get into suggests our bodies are way more adaptable than we think.
So to really dig into this, let's start with a couple of real-world puzzles. These are stories that kind of defy what we normally think is possible with our own bodies.
First up, let's talk about professional arm wrestler Devin Larratt. Now, it's no shock that the arm he trains is stronger. But here's the crazy part. Sources claim it's also physically longer and has much denser bone than his other arm. I mean, how does that even happen?
And then you've got the Maasai people of Kenya and Tanzania. They're world-renowned for their amazing height. And yeah, genetics play a part for sure. But a big piece of the puzzle is attributed to a traditional jumping ritual, a dance they do almost every single day. So, could a simple repeated movement really be the secret? So what's the link here? What connects this highly specialized athlete with an entire community? Well, the answer isn't some kind of magic. It's actually a powerful scientific principle that was figured out more than 100 years ago. It's called Wolff's Law. And this is it, Wolff's Law. The core idea is actually pretty simple. Your bones, they aren't like concrete pillars that are just static and unchanging. Nope. They are living, dynamic tissues, and they are constantly remodeling themselves based on the specific forces and stresses you put on them.
Think about it like a use it or lose it principle. If you apply more stress, say from lifting weights, your body gets the signal to make that bone denser and stronger to handle the load. But if you take that stress away, think about astronauts in zero gravity, their bones actually get weaker because there's no stimulus telling them to stay strong.
Okay, so that leads us to the really big question, right? How can we use this principle on purpose? If bones really do adapt to stress, what kind of stress could actually encourage them to get longer? The sources we looked at point to two specific techniques, both focused on the legs.
All right, method number one. This one is inspired by the Netherlands, a country that's famously tall and completely obsessed with cycling. The whole idea is to use consistent, gentle tension. You set your bike seat just a little too high, so your leg has to stretch all the way out at the bottom of every single pedal stroke. Over time, that constant, gentle pull supposedly tells the bones to remodel and lengthen just to make that motion a little bit easier.
The second method is, well, it's a bit more intense. It's designed to directly copy that Maasai tradition. So here's the theory. First, you do these high-impact jumps, and the goal is to create tiny, harmless microfractures in your shin bones. Then, and this is the critical part, you immediately lie down, use ankle weights to apply a gentle vertical stretch, and go straight to sleep. The idea is that the bones will then heal along that line of tension without gravity pushing down on them, potentially adding a tiny bit of length as they repair themselves. But look, applying all this stress is really only half the battle. I mean, you can't build a house without bricks and mortar, and you can't build new bone without the right raw materials. So let's talk about the lifestyle and the nutrition you'd need to fuel this kind of potential growth.
And across the board, lifestyle factors are seen as huge accelerators. Good quality sleep is totally non-negotiable. That's prime time for your body to repair and grow. High-intensity stuff like sprinting and heavy lifting can boost key growth hormones. Even something as simple as getting sunlight for vitamin D is critical. It's all about creating the perfect internal environment for your body to build itself up. And of course, your diet. This is where the actual building blocks come from. Protein is just fundamental. But what's really interesting is that the research also highlights the mineral boron. You find it in stuff like prunes and raisins, for the role it plays in bone health. So the takeaway is pretty clear. Focus on whole, nutrient-dense foods and healthy fats to give your body everything it's asking for.
And if you take just one thing away from all this, it should be what you see right here. This is not a quick fix, not even close. Bone remodeling is a slow, biological process. It takes real dedication over months, maybe even years. It doesn't matter if it's the cycling, the jumping, or the diet. Consistency is the only thing that's going to create real change. So when you boil it all down, The core idea we've been exploring is that your body is remarkably adaptable. It responds directly to the demands you put on it. We saw that in the bone density of an arm wrestler and the height of the Maasai people. And that leaves us with one last thought. If your very own skeleton isn't fixed, what other limits are you ready to push?